Welcome back to Capital Connection. Voices from Italy over the weekend as Mr. Berlusconi, of course, left power, paving the way for Mario Monti. The question, of course, is what is this technocrat government going to do, and will it push the ECB into a position where, of course, they can react? The question, of course, I'm going to put to David Costa, Dean of Robert Kennedy College, who joins us live from Zurich, of course, is David, this is a technocrat government. From an academic viewpoint, from where you are at, is this government in a position to push through the kind of reforms that are required, because the Italian people are expecting change at many, many levels, and maybe not all the pain of the pill that Mr. Berlusconi anyway had to deal with?
Good morning. Yes, I think that this government will be in a position to take action much faster than previous government, because it doesn't have the political baggage which has dragged on many of the reforms that Italy needed. So I think they will be able to do that. The big question is, would they be able to do it fast enough to really make a difference for the markets? But in terms of reforms, I think that both developments in Italy and Greece are certainly a turning point, which gives a possibility really to see almost the end of this crisis if the market accept that the new governments have done enough to restore investor confidence.
David, when you look at the ECB and the kind of intervention they did last week into the Italian bond markets, managing to push those yields lower, but you hear on Friday various comments that, hang on a minute, we're not the backstop for Europe, and we're definitely not a backstop for countries like Italy. Does that concern you where you're sitting, that the ECB is not doing enough? Because we're hearing from the market and market participants that they're very concerned.
Well, yes. In fact, there is yesterday a report from the Bundesbank president which has really spelled out very clearly that there will be no sort of intervention that the market expected, like a cap for certain bonds or even a blanket guarantee, which had been asked also by the president of Portugal as a possible solution for the world crisis. So at the moment, the ECB is certainly not in the position to confirm any sort of action, because they want to see if the reforms itself will make their course, and will that be enough for the markets. But eventually, if that is not enough, there will have to be some intervention, some form of intervention from the ECB, because there is no other way to get out unless, again, the acted quickly will restore investor confidence.
Yeah, David, even though Italy actually has a small surplus, do you ultimately time of the pace of these developments really essential? Do you think the Italian bond auction will actually go fairly well? And even if it does that require some involvement from the ECB as well later today?
It is possible that some involvement will be required, but one important thing is that the Italian economy is very diverse, so things are not as dire as the market have priced in at the moment. There are a lot of contradiction in the pricing of the Italian bonds, so I would even see potentially some opportunities there. So I think because of the diversity of the economy in Italy and these possible new reforms, they will be a turning point and a positive reaction. And of course, behind the scenes, we might have some mild intervention, not the type of guarantee that is expected, but certainly some intervention, and even, why not, some appetite from investors participating on the auction itself.
Right, but you know, I think maybe I'm just wondering whether this kind of optimism gets a little bit blurred by the fact that there are a lot of unknown factors getting involved here. We hear about this report from the Telegraph that even EFSF bonds previously issued for Ireland, actually that most of it was picked up by the EFSF itself. So given that there seems to be such lack of clarity, what should investors do?
Well, let me be clear. The optimism is really limited to this particular development in Italy. But overall, we are really far from a solution. We have a lot of problems. We have to see how do we have growth when at the same time we are having so many austerity measures throughout Europe. So I think that every moment that we delay this possible intervention to put a point and to put a stop to the solution can really cause further problems down the road. So the growth story, the growth problem is still there. So on the short term, certainly it's a positive development. But on the long term, I still remain very cautious, because the government has not been formed yet in Italy. We don't know if the reforms will be sufficient, if there will be a political support to this government. So the incognita are indeed very many, and I still believe that we have to be cautious, because the surprises are not over yet.
All right, David, appreciate it. Thanks very much for that. We, of course, get those third quarter GDP numbers out from the Eurozone, Germany and